If you're in game dev, then you've heard of raycasting, but maybe you don't actually know what is a raycast, or maybe you know what that is, but you don't know about all the different kinds of casts that we can do with Unity. In this video, what we're going to do is take a look at every single type of Raycast, Spherecast, Boxcast, Capsulecast that exists in Unity and see a visualization for each one of them to understand how do they work, how do they look, and how you can use them. Hey, Chris here from LlamAcademy, here to help you.
Who, me?
Yes, you. Make your game dev dreams become a reality by making sure that we understand what is a raycast, how do we use them, and understand all the different kinds of casting that's available in Unity. If you're already very confident that you understand what is a raycast and how do they work, you can go ahead and skip forward to the next section where I go through all the different kinds of casting and so those visualizations. I've got a chapters link down below so you can just quickly jump over to that. If you maybe don't have a strong math background and are like, I don't even know what array is, array, you can think about it as a very, very tiny thin line that goes from one point in a direction. So when we're talking about a raycast, and anytime we're talking about physics casting, we're taking whatever object we're using, in this case array, and sending it out in a direction. That's why we're calling it casting. We're casting the ray in this direction, and we're checking if we're going to hit something. That's really all that we're doing with any of these casts, is check, did we hit something, or what did we hit? So really the whole concept. There's a bunch of use cases for raycasting. We use it to check if we're grounded. We use it to check if we have a line of sight of something. We use it to check if we're about to fall off a cliff. We use it to check if we're close enough to jump onto something. There's really not unlimited, but a really large number of use cases for raycasting. It's incredibly popular. Basically, anytime we need to understand the world around us, we're generally using raycasting. In Unity, there's several kinds of casts available. We have a raycast, we have a Spherecast, a Boxcast, and a Capsulecast. In the demo in a little bit, I'm going to show you how to use each one of these, so don't worry about it too much right now. But the way that we access these is all basically the same. We use the physics static class, and then we say what type of cast we want to do. Raycast, Spherecast, Boxcast, Capsulecast. And then each one of those has several different variants of how you can call it for different convenience sake and to provide different functionality. For example, if you want to collide with triggers, there's a specific version of raycasting that you need to provide for that. If you want to only raycast on some specific layers, then there's also a variant that you can use for that. We're going to go over most of the different varieties of this. The only one that we're not going to use is where you have to define array, because honestly in Unity I've never defined array. I always use an origin point and a direction and a distance. That's the way that I've always used raycasting. So that's the ones we're going to look at today. Remember that the full project code is available on GitHub. You can go over there, download this project, check it out, play around with the different scenarios, and understand each of them a little bit better. I tried to make them very customizable because I needed to play around with them as well. So go ahead and check it out, sit back, relax, and check out this demo scene. In this scene, I have 19 different scenarios where we're going to go over a bunch of different ways to raycast or use some other casts. Each scenario is customizable in the inspector, where we can change which type of cast is being done, the distance we're going to raycast for, and some other properties that we'll get into later. If you don't have a super high resolution monitor, then maybe you will run into problems with all of these buttons. I'll think about how to resolve that maybe before I publish this video. If we run scenario 1, you can see that we shoot a really thin line over and we eventually hit this plane. Anything that gets highlighted in green is showing that we have made contact with that object. That's a simple raycast, and you can see that all you have to do for that is provide the position and the transform forward. If the raycast misses, then, well, it won't hit anything, and this physics.raycast will return false. Our raycast quickly becomes complicated whenever we want to know about the object that we want to hit, and we want to do layer masking. So you see the transparent object here is on the ignore raycast layer, and we need to provide an out raycast hit, which is defining inline in this function call, a new raycast hit titled hit that we will get populated by the physics.raycast call if we hit something. The final argument that we can do is query trigger interaction .collide or .ignore. By default, this is use global setting, which is ignore for most projects. So now we have a collider trigger in the way of hitting that red plane. It's on the default layer as well. So we'll hit this trigger and we will not make it to that plane in the back. We can also provide ignore, which will allow us to pass all the way through it. For scenario 6, we're going to use physics.raycastall. So this is one that allows us to raycast and get multiple results back instead of stopping after we make the first impact. Something different here is you'll always want to provide the distance that you want to raycast for, because the default value that happens when we just do physics.raycast is float.max value, which is a very large number. And since we want to raycast and get all of the results back, that ends up being very slow if we're going to go and hit everything possibly in the way. So this one, you'll see that we hit each of these planes along the way, and we're using a relatively short distance here so that way we don't hit the scenario behind us, number 15. Scenario number 7, we will start layer masking so we can ignore some specific layers. In this case, we're going to only use the default layer. You can provide more than one layer here as well for the layer mask. On all of these, the layer mask can have as many layers as you want it to have. For these specific examples, I'm just choosing one layer. So you'll see that the static geometry layer and the ignore raycast layer are missed, and we only hit the first, second to last, and the very last plane. Also on this API, we can make it where it collides or ignores trigger interactions. So here we have a bunch of small cubes that are triggers. So now we're combining that layer mask and the query trigger interaction. It's important to note also on these that if you ignore some of these arguments, that is, you don't pass them, such as the layer mask or the query trigger interaction, they do default to some values. For example, the layer mask will default to everything, and the query trigger interaction will default to the global setting, which for most projects, again, is ignore. The final raycast scenario, which, remember, the ray is just the really thin line. There's several other types of casting that we can do that we're going to get into in just a second. The final raycast here is if we're going to ignore those triggers. So even though we have the exact same setup, we're just telling it to ignore the trigger interaction. You're going to see that we only hit that back wall. Really quick, before we get to the next section, I want to talk to you about a really awesome deal going on over at humblebundle.com. Infinity PBR has teamed up with the one and only Jason Wyman with the Ultimate Unity Fantasy Game Development Bundle. This is a pay-what-you-want bundle with up to 29 items that has a game development course from Jason, 3 parts there, and a bunch of the really high-quality 3D models from Infinity PBR. It also has some sounds and a customization system in that bundle. If you've never seen any content from Infinity PBR, they have really high quality, awesome content. Let's talk about the dragon. This is my favorite one. So in this dragon, normally if you're going to buy a dragon, you'll just get the base model and maybe 1 or 2 different materials to kind of look a little bit different. This dragon has a ton of different options. You can also customize how the model looks with blend shapes. So that way you can really add a lot of different character and feel to that dragon, so you're not just stuck with that one base model. It also comes with a lot of different options on how does this dragon look in terms of materials. So it's a really highly customized one. On top of all of that, it also comes with a particle system for the fire that looks really nice, and sounds. So you're really getting the complete package with just this one asset, where you're getting the particle systems, different customization options, and audio. That's just one example of what they do. Most of the time, this is all of what comes with their 3D models. It's really a phenomenal deal. I've got an affiliate link down in the description. You can check it out if you're building a fantasy game at all. I would highly recommend you head over there, check out, and see if this is going to match into your game. All right, for number 10, we're going to start doing what we call a Spherecast. This is one that I use probably the most besides the Raycast, and this works very much the same as a Raycast. We're using physics.spherecast instead of a Raycast, and the difference here is we have to provide the radius of the sphere. Remember, it's radius, not diameter, so passing a 0.25 value like we're doing here is a 0.5 scale object, or 0.5 meter round sphere. If we upgrade this to 0.5, we'll see that we actually make contact with this particular torus. And if we set to something low like 0.1, it becomes quite small. Another possible option here is a Boxcast, where we are sending, I don't want to call it, it's a box, but it's not a cube. So it doesn't have to be the same on all sizes. This half extents is defining the size as half of the size in any direction. So I've defined 0.25 in each direction, in this case by default, to give me a perfect cube of size 0.5. We can change it to some other values like 0.125, 0.5, and 0.33 on the X, Y, and Z respectively, and we'll get this kind of weird shaped object that cannot pass through the torus because the 0.5 will hit the inside of that because there's a 1 meter gap in between that. If we shrink the Y to 0.4, then it will accurately make it through this gap. So this is useful anytime we're trying to get some box-shaped object. We can use a box cast and ensure that that object will make it through something, or we'll find out what it will hit. Number 12 is a Capsulecast. I actually haven't ever used this before this video, but it's actually really interesting because most of the time we're using capsule colliders. For example, I'll use capsule colliders on bullets. And what I did was Spherecast for those bullets, but a Capsulecast would be more accurate because that's the same collider that I would be typically using. The way you define this is also pretty weird. They want you to provide a center of sphere 1 and center of sphere 2, and then the radius of those two spheres. So you'll see by this strange looking object that I have here, I actually have exactly that, 2 spheres and a cylinder in between, and I'm resizing them based on where we put the center of sphere. This one is relatively tricky to define because, for example, the way that I've worked on all of these is I define this center point of where we want to start the raycast from. That's the center of this capsule. We then want to offset in either direction by some amount to define where is the center of that sphere. In this case, we're going up and down from that center, putting the spheres there because we have a height of 0.25 and a radius of 0.25. If we increase the radius to 0.5, we'll see that the cylinder doesn't get any bigger, but we have 2 large spheres on either side, and we can't make it through this torus anymore. The Capsulecast makes sense how they defined it this way. It's just kind of weird to get accustomed to writing code to use this. In this case, I've rotated it so you can see kind of the different ways that it can go. It doesn't have to go vertically. You can also have them running horizontally or even on the other axis here. Starting with 14, we have a SpherecastAll. So this works very much like RaycastAll, except we're casting a sphere. Same API that you would expect actually is the Spherecast behaves the exact same, except now we have to provide the distance that we want to Spherecast for. So you'll see here, all of these are on the default layer, so we're making collision with several things, but because these ones on the side are a little bit too far away, we can't hit them. So if we increase this radius to, I don't know, something like 1.25, maybe that huge, okay, that one's big enough to actually make contact with all of them. The performance of these larger casts, such as Spherecast, Boxcast, Capsulecast, especially if we add all over long distances, gets worse as we do larger radiuses and longer distances. See number 15 here, we'll see that we can have the same API to include trigger collision and layer masking. So this one's a little bit more complicated. I combined both the trigger collision and the layer masking into the same one. Again, immediately after the distance, we'll provide the layer mask, and then finally the query trigger interaction if we want to collide with those or not. So even though this passes through the static geometry and the ignore raycast layers, that's the second and third transparent box, we'll see that it does not turn them green. It doesn't register that it collided with them because they're ignored from the layer mask. The exact same behavior is here for the Boxcast. So we have BoxcastAll as well. I'm gonna go to the more crazy one. We again have the trigger collision defined here with the layer mask default and whether we're gonna collide or not. Here we have collide, so we should ignore the ignore raycast layer and the static geometry. So if I pass a really wide value for the half extents on the X, a value of 1 here, that makes it 2 meters wide, and it collides with, again, the first, the second to last, and only the back wall. It's ignoring those 2 layers. We updated the layer mask to include, I don't know, static geometry, and run it again. We should see that one is now collided with as well. We also have CapsulecastAll, which behaves the exact same. Let's go ahead to the final one where we can collide with all of these different things. You'll see it behaves, again, the exact same as the rest of them. I don't think this one's surprising. We increase the height and update the layer mask to, let's make it collide with ignore raycast. That doesn't make a lot of sense, but let's do it. There we go. Now we're only not hitting the static geometry layer. Remember, this full project is available on GitHub. You can download it and check it out, play around with the different scenarios. I want to take a second to give a huge shout out to all of my Patreon supporters. Every one of you is helping this channel grow, reach more people, and add value to more people, and that helps more people make their game development dreams become a reality. If you've been getting value out of these videos, consider becoming a Patreon supporter. Go over to patreon.com/LlamAcademy, get your name up here on the screen, get a voice shout out starting at the awesome tier, and some other cool perks at the tremendous and phenomenal tier levels. Speaking of the phenomenal tier level, I have Andrew Bowen, and at the awesome tier, I have Gerald Anderson, Autumn K, Matt Parkin, and Ivan. Thank you all for your support. I am so grateful. There's one last set of APIs that we haven't talked about, and I want to really highlight the difference between this and the Raycast All sections that we've been talking about here at the end. The problem that we have with the Raycast, Spherecast, Capsulecast, Boxcast All sets of those functionalities is that they generate a new array of hits each time that we use them. So whenever we're going to do a bunch of those, we end up generating some garbage, and that's not good for our game performance. Unity provides us what they call a non-alloc version of all of these, meaning we do not allocate any memory. So up front, what you would do is generate a Raycast hit array of whatever size you think is reasonable. In some of my videos, you've maybe seen me use these already, and I'll say, hey, the max size hits that we're gonna look for is 10, because that's usually a reasonable number for the use cases I'm talking about. We'll generate a Raycast hit array of size 10, let's say, and then we'll pass that in to these Raycast, Spherecast, whatever cast all, and that will then populate that array with the Raycast hits up to that number. That's cool because then we remove the garbage, but there's a little bit of caveat here because you need to clear this hit array every time that you're going to try to use it. Otherwise, if you, let's say one time you Spherecast all and you hit 10 items. The next time that you Spherecast all, you only hit 3. If you didn't clear that array, then you're going to still iterate over all 10 and see those last 7 objects as still hit. So it's important that you clear out that array. You can just do system.array.clear, pass in that array, and it'll reset them all to the default ones. And then to check if they've been hit something, you can just check if the hit.collider is not null. It's important also to note that the order that these things are hit is not the order that they actually are hit. So if we use any of these cast alls, the order that we get back may not be the order they were physically hit if you follow this animation, for example. It's always important to check the distance of these and maybe even sort your array based on that distance. If you're trying to find which was the closest or the farthest one, you can't rely on the index of these because the order is not guaranteed. I will say that I use the ones that are the single hit the most, the ones that are non-alloc the second most, and I almost never use the ones that allocate memory because that's just a habit that I got into to avoid allocating these useless generations. Specifically, I've recently been working a lot on mobile, so having these allocations is really bad on the performance there. On desktops, you can get away with a little bit more. If this video helped you better understand Raycasts and the different casts available to you, go ahead and like and subscribe to help the channel grow, reach more people, and add value to more people. There's a new video posted every Tutorial Tuesday, and I'll see you next week.